When the Defoe family went to bed for the final time on November 12, 1974, their deaths would form a new chapter of American folklore. They had lived in a family home in Amityville, New York, for almost a decade. The home was built in the 1920s with the now iconic two big windows set at the side of the home at 112 Ocean Avenue seemed to stare down on onlookers. Inside, Ronald Defoe Jr. and his wife, Louise, slept at the master bedroom on the second floor. Down the hall were their two younger sons and youngest daughter, and their oldest daughter, who was 18, had a room upstairs. The sign by the front path read High Hopes, but there was no hope that fateful night when the unsuspecting house in Ocean Avenue would go on to become one of the most well-known haunted houses in the United States. In December 1975, George and Kathy Lutz moved into 112 Ocean Avenue with their 3 children. Having stood empty for more than a year, the house for a bargain price of $80,000 or $725,000 in today's currency. Shortly after they moved in, they claimed strange things began to happen. George Lutz woke at 3:15 a.m. every night. Doors were ripped off the hinges, flies appeared in closed rooms, and their youngest child was found as a new imaginary friend, a demonic pig called Jody. 4 weeks later, they abandoned the house, telling the media they were too frightened to return. The story was picked up by an author, Jay Anson, and it was published as the Amityville Horror in 1977. A multi-million-dollar movie franchise, books, podcasts, documentaries and more would follow in the 5 decades to come, not to mention this from Ilustralia, a scale model for tabletop gaming in various scales, but the 28mm scale fits nicely with Department 56 and Lemax buildings. But before we get to that, I just want to touch on why I wanted this house and the colour scheme I have chosen when painting this piece. As you may know, I never take on work for commissions that glorifies real deaths in respect to the victims and my own humanity, I guess. Ronald, or Butch Defoe as you may know him, was a psychopath. The Lutzes, on the other hand, used the death of the Defoe family to profit with their story when they allegedly could not keep up with repayments on the house. And the story was all it ever was. Their version of events constantly changed according to the author, making it almost impossible to make a coherent story from their accounts. And no other families that lived in the house since have ever experienced anything supernatural at all. I wanted to have this model because the house is an iconic house from the world of film. Watching as a kid, the idea of a haunted house was obviously scary, and the colour scheme I chose to use was the same as the house of the film, which is entirely a work of fiction and not that of the Defoe family in 1974. This model, however, is, as described, a model of the actual Defoe house rather than the house used in the film, and explains why the house is missing the double brick chimney on either side. The house from the film is located in Toms River, New Jersey, and looks a little different today after a remodel, sadly losing the iconic gambrel style roof. So back to the model. This is available courtesy of Ilustralia, who are a company from 3D creator Victor Gonzalez Power. These models are available to download so you can print them on your own 3D FDM printer. Their designs, as well as being aesthetically pleasing, are all designs that you do not require any supports. When you purchase these files from Ilustralia, you'll receive the files in both 28 and 20mm scales, but they also tell you which scale to print if you require the files in a different size. The great news is that all the files have been designed to print on a printer with a print rate of 220mm square, which nowadays is virtually every printer available, so whether you have a Rolls-Royce Bamboo Labs printer or an entry-level Elegoo printer, you won't have to cut your files to make them fit. It's all been designed to be as simple as possible for the end user and not rely extensively on knowledge of being able to use a 3D printer. I said earlier on that this has been designed to use as a tabletop game, but the chances are that if you're watching this on my channel, you're interested in using it for your Halloween village alongside pieces from Lemax. Which you certainly can. The 28mm scale is pretty much perfect, but don't expect it to come out in one complete finished piece. You'll need to print and assemble all the pieces together. There are 46 files you'll need to print, and based on a typical modern printer, printed at a standard speed, it will take approximately 43.5 hours to print this house along with all the balconies, doors and floors. They do go together very nicely though in sections, essentially one floor at a time. This is because if you're playing the game you can do so unimpeded, but opening for us villagers is not a feature we need. As it is intended to see inside every room whilst playing, the buildings are rich in interior detail, so if you love your houses to have elaborate eternal scenes, you could really be creative here if you choose to. The Amityville house has not been designed with it being a lit building in mind, but there is plenty of room to be able to add lights, and you could adapt the windows at the back to house a female jack socket and a switch. When unlit, the building seems to seamlessly fit together, but when adding lights you may see there's a little bit of light bleeding through the gaps otherwise not seen before. And if I was to make another, I'd probably use an item like CT1 that both adheres and seals at the same time. But being a Halloween Village item, it had to be lit, and it had to have those red lights in the windows like the two demonic eyes. So what does it cost? Well, for the files you're looking at $31 US, which is great value. The 28mm scale building, including the terraces, measures 14 inches long by 6.5 inches deep and 7 inches high, so it has some presence. And in creating this, you're going to be using approximately 1 kilo or 280 metres worth of filament. That's going to cost you around $20 or £17. Paints, primers and adhesives, obviously depending on your colour scheme, you may be looking to add another $30 onto that. If you're going to make it a lit building, you may want to budget in for another $10 to $15, so that'll take it around $95 or £75. So how long does it take to complete? Well, that's a little harder to define, depending on your proficiency of painting and the level of detail you're looking to put in. I probably spent way too long on the internals that no one other than myself is ever going to see, and with those roof tiles as well. Dry brushing them for hours to build up layers of colour, but I'm glad that I did because I love how they came out. To put a number on it though, I'd say you'll be looking at spending between 10 and 40 hours, which is quite a range, but it really is down to the detail and whether it's a slap drop or a labour of love. That's the top actual print tile, so let's say around about 65 hours as an average for one of these, start to finish. I've thoroughly enjoyed making the Amityville house, and if you're currently a collector or villager that's looking to further expand the hobby, Ilustralia offer fantastic models of other famous houses for you to make your own. I've put the links to their website below, so go and have a look and check them out for yourself. And if you're interested to know more about the Lutz's story about the house, I really recommend the Y Files. It's my favourite channel on YouTube, and I've linked a video to that too. Also, if you're new to 3D printing and you'd like some more info about how to get started, let me know in the comments or message me, and if there's enough of you to do that, I'll try and get a video about that together too.